viewers, welcome to QTP functional testing videos. Myself Uday. In this video, I would like to demonstrate about how to use descriptive programming. So basically, when we're starting our career in QTP or in the initial phases, what we used to do is we used to record the test scripts, right? So once we record the scripts, what we will do, we will enhance or modify the script as per the test case needs, right? So when we run the test script, what it exactly QTP will do is QTP will refer the objects that are existing in the object repository and perform the operation, right? So let me demonstrate you the same thing. All right, so I would like to record a small flight reservation application here. Okay, so enter username, password, clicking on OK button. Alright, so after that I am stopping the recording session. So now when I run my script, let's see whether it is going to run exactly as per the intended, right? So just activated, enter username and password, right? But how exactly it remembers all these properties and what values we have to enter, right? It stores the objects in a tool called object repository. Okay, so as you can see, first we clicked on login dialog box, so it stored that login dialog box. After that we entered username or agent name, it saved that object, and after that we entered password. Okay, the corresponding object is got stored. After that we clicked on OK button, so OK button is also got stored in object repository, right? So as far as the objects are existing in the object repository, it is fine, right? We can able to execute the script. For example, say if the object doesn't existing in object repository, can we able to execute the same script? Let's see. Alright, so here I just deleted that agent name object, that is a web edit. Let me run the script and see. Okay, sorry, my bad. I need to launch the flight reservation. So after that, did you guys observe agent name is not in object repository, so it will throw you an error saying that object does not exist in object repository. But is it necessary or is it mandatory to have all these objects in object repository? Is there no other way that we can even, without having object repository, can we perform any operations in an application? Yeah, we can do that using using descriptive programming, and in QTP terms it is called programmatic descriptions. Okay, so let's see what it is. All right, in QTP, if the object is existing in object repository, then we can add statements to perform corresponding operations with the object repository. Alright, if the object does not existing or deleted from the object repository, then QTP unable to find that object, and which cannot perform the operation and will throw you an error. Right? We can identify the object without referring to the object in object repository by giving programmatic description, and is called descriptive programming. Okay. So what exactly is the programmatic descriptions? Whatever the properties that it is storing in object repository, those properties we are directly giving in the script. Okay, that is what object repository means. So let's see how we can do the same thing using descriptive programming. Okay, so there are two types of descriptive programming. One is static descriptive programming and another one is dynamic descriptive programming. I will be demonstrating both of these. Okay, first let's start with the static descriptive programming. Alright, so or else what we can do, okay, let me delete all these, just making sure that the objects are not there in object repository, even though we can perform the operations, right? But for that we need to include those object properties in the script. For that, what I am doing is, with the help of objects pi, I will be getting those properties. Okay, let me in order to get those properties using object spy, I will click on that object and see it will list you all the properties and the corresponding values, right? So if you have to write on your own or using descriptive programming, we need to choose those properties which are unique, right? By going through all these properties with the respect to the other objectives, we need to choose the properties, right? So for this object I am using the text property. Okay, so dilog, sorry, for this I am using text property. For that, what you have to do is, first we need to give the class name. Okay, after that we need to give the object properties. For that I am using text property. Okay, you need to give the colon equal to, and what is the text value of this dialog box? Text property value. So let me show you. Just click on login button. So as you can see, the text property value is login. So the corresponding value we have to give it here. Okay, dot activate. Alright, so I am just commenting this one in order to make you clear idea like what exactly we are doing here. Alright, so after that, in this dialog box I have two web edits, right? So for that, in order to enter some value in age and name, so what we have is, in this dialog box we have this edit box, right? So first we need to give the dialog box. In that, what we have is will edit, right? So what is the unique property that we have to choose? Just use object spy, point out to this object. As you can see, different properties, and I choose attached text. Alright, the attached text name is isn't, right? So I will give the same thing here, attached text colon equal to agent name. This is the value of attached text, right? So after that, what we have to do, we need to enter some value here, right? For that reason I am giving some value. Okay, in the same way I need to enter password in this edit box, right? So just click on it and see which is the unique, which property will be distinct with respect to the rest of the objects. So I use attached text only. Okay, and the value is password. Okay, let me copy the same thing here. Alright, so here it is, password, the value is Mercury. Okay, after that, what we have to do is, we have to click OK button, right? So for that, the OK button is existing in this dialog box only, right? So dot win button. Okay, let me see what is the unique property here. Regular expression, okay, text is okay, text colon equal to okay. Okay, let me tell you one more point here. For example, say if you want to include more than one property, what you will do? So we need to separate this kind of properties, like property value combination with a comma. For example, say for this, what I want to give is, I want to include another property called index colon equal to 0. excuse me. So whatever the properties, like property collection string, that you need to separate it with a comma, and you need to give like this. Okay, let's see, is there any mistakes in the script? Text colon, we need to seems like everything is good. Let me execute it. Okay, oh sorry, it's my bad. DIL spell mistake. Alright, let me execute it. As you can see, it has entered username, password, and clicked on OK button, right? So this is what we call static descriptive programming. Whatever the property values that we use for this description, we will be directly giving in the script itself, right? So let me explain you about dynamic descriptive programming as well. After that, we will see what are the advantages and disadvantages between these two. Okay. So in order to write dynamic descriptive programming, what you need to do is we need to create an object using description.create, which will create an empty object. When I say empty object, it is a test object, right? So first I need to create a dialog box. For that, what I am doing is I am creating a object called ODialog, okay, which is equal to description dot create. Okay, what this statement will do is it will create a dummy object. For that object, we need to assign the properties. So the first property that we need to give is the class, right? So for this object, what I am doing is I need to assign a class name. After that, we need to click dot, and we have to give value. Okay, what is the class of this? This is dialog, DIALOG. All right. So once we assign this class, we need to give the text property, right? For that, excuse me. So give text dot value equal to login. All right. Now my dialog object is ready, right? After that, I need to create agent name edit box. For that, what I say, you name edit. Okay, you can give whatever name that you want. All right. For me, in order to give a unique name, I am just giving some random unique name. Okay. For each and every object type, we need to use description.create. All right. Once this is ready, we need to specify the class name. So the class name is class. All right. Dot value equal to, what is this type? It is Vim edit class, right? Once I have class ready, what is the property that I have to use? I need to use agent text, right? Okay, agent text equal dot value equal to, what is the value? Agent name. This is the value. This is the value of that attach a text property, right? So now my web edit is ready. In the same way, I need to create for the password as well. So what I will give the object name as pwd edit description dot create. To that, its class is winEdit and its attached text is password, right? So I use the values password here. All right. So one more object that we need to create. Okay, set okay button equal to description dot create. So empty object will be created. But like this, how many number of objects we have to create for all those objects. Alright, so but there is a, like, some people who what they will do is they put these class and property description into separate files, and they will write a for loop kind of thing, so that you need for every object you need not to write a script like this. Rather, in a function, what they will do is excuse me, in that function what they will do is they will create a script to giving these kind of values. Now, internally, what I mean to say here is, internally it will build object in this format, right? So for make class dot value equal to which is win button, right? So this is like some kind of overhead we have when we are working with descriptive program. We need to find out the unique properties. We need to write this kind of scripts, which is like a bit bit difficult. But whoever, like people who are familiar with QTP, they will prefer this methodology because which have its own advantage. All right, so I will tell you what are the advantages, what points that we have to consider and all very soon. Alright, so now we have our objects ready. Alright, we can use the same script here. So once you create all these objects, in place of this object property, like this in static descriptive programming, what we did, we gave the properties here, right? Rather, in dynamic descriptive programming, what we will do is, whatever the object we have created with respect to that object, we have to give it here. All right. So I'm doing the same thing here. Control V. This is for dialog, right? For this, then whatever the object that we have created for this dialog box, I gave there. Okay. So after that, what we have to do in this edit box, we have created this object for this we need it, right? So that is what I am giving there, and in place of password, I give that object. After that, so let me see, is there any mistakes in here? So I'm just commenting this one. This is a static descriptive programming script, and I would like to run this only dynamic descriptive programming. Alright. With class dialog text string value equal to login. With class we need it, attach with text is fine, edit. Alright. So let me execute it, see how it goes, right? As you can see, it has entered username, password, and clicked on OK button. Alright, so this is how we can use static or dynamic descriptive programming. In a statement, you can use both as well, like static and dynamic, and I will cover that in my presentation. Okay, so let's go through this presentation, and there are few points we can cover in here. So what is static? Like in static descriptive programming, you can specify the properties in the step itself. You list the set of properties and values that describe the object directly in a VB script, right? So if it is more than one property, what you have to do is put the property value combination in double quotes and separate it with a comma, right? And in dynamic descriptive programming, what you will do, you will first build that object, all right, and use that object wherever you want. Okay, so once you go in here, it's like, there are some advantages and disadvantages of using both, like, static descriptive programming and dynamic descriptive programming. Let's go through it. For example, what is the main advantage in here? By looking at the properties itself, we can able to understand what object it is, and we can which will be a readable format, and if there is any problem, we can go and check what property values that got changed, and update it in here itself, right? But the biggest overhead in using static descriptive programming is, for example, say I have 1000 lines of script. For example, some object got changed, right? For example, the same object I have to see here. I am using all this in all the statements. I am using the same object, right? For example, if it has changed, the object text got changed from login on to sign in or something, in all the places I have to change, right? That is the biggest overhead in using static descriptive programming, right? And also, like, for example, what I meant to say here is, we need to, like, wherever the object exists, we need to keep track of all the changes in all the scripts, right? Whereas in dynamic descriptive programming, what we will do is, we will create these objects, but in real time projects, they may not be using in the same format, like, in my, like what I demonstrated here. But in generally, what they will do is, for example, if you think about in a framework level, right, generally they will give a description like, okay, they will give like this, we need it, and after that following description, whatever the unique properties that is associated with that, they will give like this. Okay, say what is that as a name, right? So they will, in driver script, what they will do is, they will split based on comma. Okay, the first one is unique object ID, and based on this one is excuse me, object class, and after that, for example, if you have more than that, the rest of these are the programmatic descriptions for this object, right? So they will, in a driver script, they will create an object like this. That's what I was referring earlier while explaining this. All right, they will store in some dictionary objects or somewhere. Okay, so by storing that, by referring that directly, see, by getting this object ID, you can put a logic where it can get the description associated. Okay, what I mean to say here is, for example, say I have created an object called dist object. Okay, I will give the ID as this. Okay, this is a as with the descriptive programming, what we will do, it will store the key value pair combinations, right? So add item is this and the value is this, right? They will store something like this. All right, even that is a very big topic to explain you to how they internally use in frameworks. Okay, but to give an overview, I'm just explaining it in here. All right, so they will give the properties, and for this they will be, see, at this moment we have a single property here. After that, they will build based on, for example, say based on comma or whatever. If it is more than that, they will include it here, and while building that object, they will again split it and add this object. Whenever in the script, when they refer, this will, for example, this is the unique ID, right? When they refer this variable, they will get the corresponding description. Okay. If time permits, I will I will demonstrate this in a keyword driven framework, maybe in some time later. Okay, at that time you will get a more clarity. All right, so that's all in here. Let me see. So okay, the biggest advantage of this right, using dynamic descriptive programming, what we have to do is, once you have this unique object ID which with this description, because you are directly using this object, no need to update. For example, say this agent name got changed to some agent name 123. Okay, so we need to just update in a single place, rather than if it is the same in static descriptive programming, what we have to do, wherever you use it, we have to replace in all the places, right? So that is the biggest advantage of using dynamic descriptive programming. Once we create the object, we can use that object instance wherever you want. Even if the object got updated, we need to update in a single place, which exactly works like the shared object repository. All right, so let's go to the go and see the advantages of descriptive programming. All right, we can use descriptive programming. Okay, so descriptive program will be useful, like where, for example, what you have to do is, you have to print all the link names available in a web page. If you have to use with respect to object repository, what you have to do, you have to add all the links in your object repository, and you have to print all the links, right? But rather if you use descriptive program, it is very simple. Like, for example, I will show you here. Even this is one of the important interview question. Okay, how do you list out all the link names available in a web page? Okay, for that, what I am doing here is, I just description.create. Okay, because I need to print the link. First I need to give sorry, class name dot value equal to link. Okay, once this is done, what I have to do is, okay, at this moment I have some problem with the IE, so I am giving a rough pseudo code. Okay, in this page object, what I have to do is child objects. So okay, one point I want to, the beauty of descriptive programming comes with this child objects method. Basically what child objects will do is, whatever the object type that you specify here, or the object that you give, it will find out all the objects which is matching with this object, and it will return you the collection. All right, so say set link child object or something. Okay, once you have this, you will have a property called count property. We will look through each individual link item. All right, so you can say count -1. What we have to do, we have to print the inner text property, say inner text property. Okay, so browser dot phrase dot okay, sorry, my bad. Print, what we have to do here is, we need to give this object, because this is a collection. For example, say if I have 10 links in my page, what it will do is, it will give you a collection of 10. Okay, we have to iterate through 0 to 9, which is the 10 elements, right? So for that, in order to iterate each individual link, I am just using a for loop. Okay, I is an iterator here, and after that we can use something like getRO property, okay, of inner text. Okay, so whatever the inner text or whatever the property that is there associated with that link object will be, for all the links, the corresponding name will be displayed. Okay, this is how we use descriptive. That is the main advantage of using descriptive programming. If you have to use the object repository, what you have to do, all the 10 objects needs to be stored in an object repository, and then we can get the values, right? Okay, that is what I am referring. We can use programmatic description to perform the same operation on several objects with the identical properties. Here example, you need to find all the link or button names existing in the page. Okay, we can automate the application even though the application is not ready. So in some of the product developments or project development, what will happen is, if there is a good coordination between the development team and testing team, the developer will give a template of the template is nothing but an template of the web page, basically where they will list out what and all the objects will be displayed in a web page. Alright, and for the each object they will give unique properties that they will use for the development. If you know the object properties, we can use those object properties for building this programmatic. By using descriptive programming, we can create those objects and use it directly. Alright, so some people will say, like, can't we do that using object repository? Yes, we can do that, but in practically, if you are thinking, if you have to do that, it is a tedious job. So what I am trying to say here is, for example, say even though that I know what and all the objects are there, and what are the properties associated with that. So once we have that, it is not like, if the programmatic description, what we will do, we will use the class and properties and we can build it. But we can do the same thing as well in object repository. For that, what we have to do is, we need click on object, define new object, new test object. What we have to do is, for example, this is a standard Windows object. So yeah. So I have selected this. First I need to click on dialog, right? So flight reservation, say I am giving some unique name, DILOZ. What is the text? It is login, because the developer gave me even the application. Assuming my application is not ready, I can start scripting my automation, right? So I added my dialog box which came in here. Now in this dialog box I want to add, alright, in this dialog box I want to add edit box, right? Just click on define new object, go to standard Windows. In this, what we will edit, so flight reservation is the name. Okay, what is the attached text? It is sorry, added. So once we add all these objects, we can directly excuse me, write our script, right? So what I'm trying to say here is DIA dialog. See, you are getting it. I'm really sorry, guys. Okay. After that, in the same way, once you have that, you can, once the objects are added, you can write your own script, right? So this is what I'm saying, what I'm trying to tell you here. For the second point, we can do either way, like using static or dynamic descriptive programming, or if you know the already properties, you just build an object repository and write script as per your needs. This is also like, contradictory statement, like, some people will say descriptive programming is faster, some people will say object repository is faster, but my personal experience is like it should be faster when we are using descriptive programming. Because see, whenever you are referring an object repository, what it will have to do, you will give the unique identifier. That identifier will be searched in the object repository, then it will build that object, and once the object is built, it will perform the operation. Right? Whereas if you are using in a descriptive program, what it will do is, you are directly giving the properties in script itself, right? So there itself it will build the object and perform the operation, right? So but few people will say no, if we use object repository, but even like even if that is a practical experience with a real static data only, some people will say OR is faster. Alright. And the next point is, if you have to work more number of objects, for example, say in my object repository, if I have say 3000 or 5000 objects, because in a shared object repository which will scale across multiple pages, right? In that scenario, we may have contain lot number of objects in a shared object repository. As the object repository size grows up, what will happen is, when you are referring a statement, it needs to identify, like first it need to find that object in the object repository, so which will take some time, right? That's why the performance may go degrades, right? And another overhead at this point is, like if like more number of team members are using the same shared object repository, and in generally in a team or a project, only one person use it, for one person they will grant write permissions. So until that guy updates that shared object repository, no one can access it, right? So that is also one overhead of using shared object repository. Okay, if you are not interested to use object repository at all, like in some frameworks, they want to maintain their own object repository rather than QTP, shared object repository, or per action shared object repository. All right, as per their framework, they can they can give their own syntax to have that object repository. On top of that, they will in a driver script, they will create those objects. All right. And another one is code portability. You just need to okay, what I mean to say here is, for example, say I have a few statements, like okay, like the one I have created, right? There I have some statements which are very common. Okay, directly I just can, for example, say I have some 10 lines of code which I want to use very frequently, so I can directly copy these statements and can write wherever I want, right? If I have to use this, if I use static descriptive programming, I can directly copy that code. I need not to bother about the object repository. Whereas if you are using shared object repository, we need to make sure that the object should be existing in a shared object repository, right? So that is what I'm saying here is the code portability. You just, because the object description you are giving in the script itself, you can directly copy paste that to somewhere wherever you want. All right, that is one of that. There are few disadvantages in descriptive programming. Maintenance will be more in descriptive programming, especially in static descriptive programming, which I explained you earlier, right? For example, if the object got changed and which is used in a multiple places, we need to go through exactly where exactly it has been used, and we need to update in all the places, right? And at the same time, we need to give unique properties in an unique object properties. If we would have used object repository, QTP will take care of what are the properties that can be unique, right? Even smart identification, all these mechanisms can be applied if you can use only object repository. That kind of facility is not there in descriptive programming. We have to choose the unique identifier. So for example, say as there in the flight reservation application, right? At this moment, OK button in the login page, we have one OK button. For example, if the developer added some extra, OK button, what will happen, right? So in those scenarios, what will happen is, even you give the description, that will not be sufficient, and most of the cases the script will fail. We need to make sure that we need to give an enough description there, right? And another disadvantage is like using update and maintenance on mode. So what I'm saying to you, if you are using an object repository, if for example say some object got changed, if you run the whole script in update or maintenance mode, it will give you what object got changed, what kind of action that you have to perform. But if you are using descriptive programming, that is not the case. We manually figure it out how to overcome that problem, right? Okay. So these are the common points that we need to remember when you are working with descriptive programming. So once you run the script, at the end of the result for each object, it will display you like whatever the object exists, right? So that it will show you in a bracket. So let me show you. Oh, sorry, I have deleted. So basically, whenever you use a descriptive programming, that object is associated with a bracket. All right, and QTP evaluates all property values in a programmatic description as a regular expression. So whatever the value that you are giving here, this value it evaluates as a regular expression. All right, you give Yahoo dot star. Even you might be thinking that if you give dot star or some regular expression, only in those cases it will regular expression. No, whatever value you give in here, it will evaluate that as a regular expression. For example, there are some scenarios where you don't want to execute like evaluate this as a regular expression. For that, what you have to do is you need to give a regular expression property to false. So to tell more about it, for example, say you did some bank transaction, and after the bank transaction it will send you a mail. Okay, you need to verify that account number. So they don't give you the whole account number, right? For example, say if it is a 16-digit number, what they will do is initial 12 let me for example, once the transaction is complete, what they will do, they will put a star like this. The mail will be sent like this. Say some number, these 4 digits they will be shown in that account number. Okay, once this I want to open a mail which is with this account number. So for that, what I have to do is first I need to find the text property of that. So if you use some regular expression, okay, like star dot 1 2 3 4, I am not sure whether it will work or not. So if you give a excuse me, so regular expression this like this, I am not sure whether it will work or not, but what you have to do is if you give like regular expression, say inner text equal to say obj of inner text dot value equal to this value. Okay, and you don't, here what you want is you don't want to evaluate this as a regular expression, right? So for that, what you have to do is you need to give something like this, dot regular expression. Okay, regular expression equal to false. When you say false, what it will do is it won't, the whatever the value that you are giving here, right, it won't evaluated as a regular expression, right? And the next one, if we start using the descriptive programming for an object in a statement, then we have to continue. For example, as you can see here, Yahoo is there in my object repository. I used it. So after that, I want to use like descriptive programming. As I said earlier, we can use both object repository objects at the same time. From the descriptive, we can use the descriptive programming as well. If I give like this, for example, when I start using a descriptive programming for an object, for the rest of the the rest of the hierarchy in that statement, we should use the descriptive programming. For example, say here I use the object from the object repository. This is a descriptive programming, and here if I try to use object repository, then it will throw you an error. Alright, that is what I displayed here. Yeah. So here I am using descriptive programming, but when I refer this from object repository, it will throw an error, right? Rather, what you have to use here, you have to give the descriptive programming itself, because once we start using any descriptive programming from there onwards we have to use a descriptive programming in that statement. Alright, so that's all in this video. Thanks for watching. Please leave your comments about this video. Thank you.